and we couldn't get our heads around the fact that they'd done it. Tottenham sacked him and off he went.
Yep.
With so much expected from Mourinho. So when we look at it now, Simon, under Conte, 1 year on, Tottenham fourth, 17 points behind leaders Manchester City.
Yeah.
Where's it got them? How further forward are they?
Well, you roll forward a year, and this time last year, you had a terse, temperamental manager that needed to be backed or sacked. You roll forward a year, you've got a terse, temperamental, excitable Italian manager that needs to be backed or will walk or be sacked. The difference in this one is I think Conte is in a different state of mind and a different stage in his career than José Mourinho was at the time. There was never really a fit between Daniel Levy and José Mourinho. You know, the one that walked through the door in November, I think it was, of 2019, that talked about, you know, how much he loved the squad and it was the best gift he could be given was the squad that he was given at Tottenham. We all sat there scratching our head thinking we've got a very different Jose. It won't last long. And it didn't last long. And it became a relationship that was based upon falling outs with players, challenges, and ultimately a team that was sort of in between two stools. Similar challenges with some of the players there. Dele Alli was a challenge for him. Dele Alli's been a challenge for Antonio Conte. He managed to square that challenge because he's flung him out and got rid of him.
Yeah.
And there needs to be a few more of those players that probably will go out of the door as well at Tottenham to build the side.
Yeah.
I think Tottenham are in a better position. They have the same challenges because managers are difficult, and this was a very high-profile manager. And we wasn't so long ago we were watching him talk about, you know, this ridiculous outburst that he had after a game where he talked about that he wasn't good enough to do the job and he wasn't going to be around much longer and this, that and the other. And I said to you, this is a temperamental Italian that needs to be perhaps managed a little bit better and perhaps needs to manage himself. They've now got themselves into some form of order. He was much more tempered in his reaction after losing to Brighton, wasn't he?
He was.
It wasn't the excitable,
aerated,
sort of over-the-top reaction.
Yeah.
Because I suspect that he's found his peace with Daniel, knows that there's going to be some backing. Daniel made observations, I noticed, in January 2019 about how they'd spent money and what they were spending. This was not 2019. This was after 2019 and after the beginning of last season when he put Nuno Espirito Santo in place.
That's right. Yeah.
And talked about how much money Tottenham has spent.
Yeah.
250 million is probably over-egging it a little bit because they've also sold some players. So they've probably spent just under 200 million quid, which you would expect a top six side to spend 60, 70 million pounds, 50% of its TV money on acquiring new players. So there's nothing revolutionary about what Tottenham have done there. But I do think they've got a live one with Conte. I do think that they will win something with Conte. I don't know what it looks like. Don't ask me what pot it will be. But I do think that they will win something with him. I think the Harry Kane circle's been squared. He ain't going nowhere now, is he? That's gone away. All of that rubbish last year, Harry Kane doing interviews with our mate Gary and talking about what he was going to do and getting his brother to come along and do deals for him. All of that's gone away. Now, Erling Haaland's going to Man City. Harry Kane will be staying at Tottenham Hotspur. And there's signings that they've made in the January window, good signings.
Yes.
Good players.
Yeah.
Different sort of feel about those players, much more substance about them. I think you'll see a few players disappearing out the door. And I think you'll start to see Conte really start to get his fingers into the psyche of this football club and build a solid platform. So I really do expect Tottenham to turn up next season. There won't be the showboating signings of, Gareth Bale that don't work out. They could have been better and they weren't as bad as perhaps people like me advocate that they were, but you're going to see a substantial Tottenham Hotspur next year. So to answer your question, whilst they've still got the challenges with a temperamental and excitable manager, a difficult one to manage, they've got one that's currently in vogue and on his game.
I want to ask you this before we leave this subject. It rocked us that morning. We were amazed. In fact, we know who got the story in here, who was on it.
The timing of it for a cup final was pretty strange.
And then the story came through to you and I here in studio with Danny Murphy. And I said to you then, and I was asking you now, Simon, at the time you said to me, it's all down to money. It's down to money. The reason will be for money.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of Tottenham fans are still asking this morning, what was the reason? And specifically, you're being asked to give your thought on it. Ask Simon, what if it was about money? What about money?
Well, I sort of alluded to the fact that there will be bonuses in place for winning tournaments. And I'm not entirely sure. I think Daniel had made his mind up. I'm not speaking for Daniel Levy, and I'm not suggesting that I have more information than just some educated viewpoints about the nature of that particular relationship. And I don't think that Daniel saw it going forward. And I don't think Daniel felt there was a necessity to allow him to win a title or win a cup and pay him bonuses on the back of it. And I think it was time for a change. And with that in mind, when I talked about the finances, if you're going to pay the manager 10 million quid for winning a tournament, it really, in a great scheme of things, isn't that important. But notwithstanding it still is £10 million. It still is a legacy that perhaps you don't want to have happen. And I just think that at that particular time, there were more challenges coming with Mourinho than Daniel Levy wanted to deal with in terms of what he might have wanted the following season, what he might have felt he was entitled to, and where they thought they were really going. And if they really felt that this was coming to an end, it was going to become more difficult to take manager out once he'd won something.
Yeah.
So with all that in mind, you know, the Spirito Santo appointment, even though I advocated, you gave me a list of 6 managers last year, and the 6 managers that you gave me a list of, he was a standout one. He wasn't the one I would have gone for, but if I had a wider list than that. But from that 6 list you gave me, I can't remember who was on it, but there were none of them particularly exciting. Conte is the first manager that Tottenham have got for some time that has an established winning record, current winning record,
right?
That wins in the real time. You know, it was 18 months ago he won Serie A. Well, not even 18 months, is it? He won it last year, didn't he?
That's right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So 7 months, 8, 9, 10 months ago, he wins a league with Italy, an Italian side, and only leaves because they're having to break up that side. He's in Tottenham Hotspur. He seems to have turned the corner. The dialogue has turned down. And I think the opportunity for Tottenham now, I would be very surprised if we don't see decent spend. Now, whatever Daniel Levy spends, he's still going to be called a bunch of names. But I would be very surprised if we see less than £100 million being spent by Tottenham in the next transfer window.
And time will tell. Maybe Conte becomes a special one. Did I say that? Yeah, I did. 11:45.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.